Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have Reality is Creepier Than Fiction. So we are once again traipsing into the Won't Think Straight, No Sleep creepypastas. The one that brought us Gurgles and Bugman, and a curious mind is a terrible curse. This is part 3 of the series, and you can check it out at Reddit NoSleep, along with all the other entries in this saga by Won't Think Straight. But ahead, let's give our initial recommendations. I'm gonna conditionally partially recommend it.
A conditional partial. Wow.
Like, I'm gonna partially recommend it, but otherwise I might. But otherwise, I probably wouldn't recommend this. So, yeah.
I am going to partially recommend it.
Interesting.
I'll recommend it.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's dive into this story and find out exactly why we gave such partials, and then like one just like I'll recommend it, like just like definite.
Throwing you for a loop.
Yeah.
Not for this entire recording, you're to be questioning your own like worldview.
No, I'll explain why why I'm giving it a partial recommendation, like I'm bordering on like a non, but yeah. And we'll see if like maybe my view will change. Maybe you guys can dissuade me from that. But
or you could ruin it for us.
Yeah. Thanks. I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
But let's to do that we gotta go into the rundown featuring Nair, because we don't have a name for Won't Think Straight specifically.
We still don't, yeah.
So we are greeted with another freaky story. Though this one didn't happen to Nair specifically, but to an aunt of a friend of Nair's. This Aunt Mary, names in this story, by the way, have been altered to protect those involved, was the cool aunt to all the kids, but otherwise a spinster in the making, until her 40s, where she met a wonderful man named Stanley. The two were madly in love and married after 2 months of knowing each other, and they lived in the mansion Aunt May's parents left for her. They began traveling the world shortly after their marriage, as part of like their honeymoon thing, for about a year, and everything seemed great. But upon returning from these trips, Aunt Mary, Aunt May is like getting caught because it's like Spider-Man Aunt May, like the famous Aunt May. Aunt Mary began acting very strange and treating her husband as though he wasn't her husband. In fact, she was proclaiming that Stanley wasn't Stanley, but an identical stranger. It also didn't help that she was going on about scratching sounds and someone in the house calling her name at night. Aunt Mary was eventually treated for what seemed to be the disorder Capgras syndrome, which creates such delusions in its victims. And with Stanley's distraught but loving help, the family decided to allow Mary to be sedated but still live at home.
I really thought you said catgrass syndrome. Like the stuff you buy for your cats to eat. Has like a little bit of catnip in it.
Yeah. The syndrome is Capgras syndrome. In the time that Stanley was taking care of Mary at home, the family got to know Stanley quite well, and he seemed rather genuine, making all of this that much more tragic. And then tragedy doubled down when authorities were called out to a cliffside about a half-hour drive from Mary and Stanley's home, where Mary had been seen pulling a body from her car, stabbing it repeatedly before dumping it over the edge. When the police confronted her, Mary looked at them smiling before jumping off herself to her death. Things got even worse and weirder when the police searched the house and discovered a secret basement, locked, and where a desiccated body was found. That of Stanley? Apparently, he had been clawing at the door and died of starvation some time ago. This whole story has left Nair with a haunting revelation that perhaps Aunt Mary wasn't crazy, but actually was dealing with something quite hard to explain, some kind of doppelganger. Finn. So, that was the story. Reality is creepier than fiction. I suppose we'll move now on to everyone tolerates the Graham Inquisitions at this point, and I've got a few. So I'm going to start with this one here. Such is the story of old Aunt Mary. Mary wasn't my aunt, but a friend of mine's. So I read this and I was like, wait, what? Is it like Miss? Oh, this Aunt Mary was the aunt of a friend of Nair's. Okay, I kind of, because when I first read it, it was like Mary wasn't my aunt, but a friend of mine. Is how I read it.
Oh,
like
you didn't read the minds.
I kind of skipped over the apostrophe s. Like I think it just the apostrophe there. So I feel like there it still could be like maybe clarified a little bit better than how it is, so that it doesn't have that problem. So like Mary wasn't my aunt, but the aunt of a friend of mine.
Yes.
Just for better clarification.
Because I had the same sort of thing happen. I stumble over. I'm like, oh, it means that. Okay. I just forgot to take note of that, honestly.
Yeah. And then my next one here, this might be pedantic or it might be a nitpick, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Welcome to the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Welcome to Grammar Inquisition specifically. That morning, Aunt Mary's body was found at the base of an ocean cliff about a half-hour's drive away. Okay, so wait. I feel like found here should actually be replaced with recovered, because as this paragraph goes on, to explain the details of what occurred, we find that the police had already encountered Mary before she jumped. So her body wasn't specifically found, it was recovered because they knew exactly where she was or where her body would have been when it fell. The way just like for me, in terms of like how it happened, like when I read like her body was found, it's like, okay, somebody happened upon her body. But in reality that didn't happen. Like somebody encountered her, called the cops, they showed up. She then killed herself by jumping off the cliff and they had to recover the body.
Okay, so yes, you're probably right, but for someone that is just retelling the story and isn't writing it into a newspaper article, I don't think that specificity is important.
I mean, I kind of feel it is, but fair. It's just like, to me, like it's the difference between like accidentally like coming across the body and knowing where the body was and retrieving it. But yeah, hence why I said this is probably gonna be a nitpick.
Either way.
Okay. And I'll move on to my last one here. The license plate of the car led them back to the house where the investigation was now focused. So license plate specifically here, like license, is spelled wrong. It has 2 C's in it, so like LICENCE.
Really?
When it should be LICENSE.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, sorry. When you said 2 C's, I imagined 2 C's right beside each other. I'm like, wait, they're not beside each other at all.
Yeah, so I should have been more clear.
Yeah.
I did also like spell it out after.
Yeah, but I wasn't listening to you. I was trying to find it.
Thanks, gamer.
You're welcome. I also always spell that word wrong, so I don't even know the right spelling of it, to be honest.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I was able to grab the also because I have the story in Google Docs when I was doing my note taking and stuff. So that's how I was able to notice it. But yeah, it is a common typo. And yeah, I'm using cheat code, but like also it's editorial or it's editing. So
I know.
Yeah. But that's my Grammar Inquisition. So Mikey, the E stands for evil.
Well, I have a conjunction junction.
Ooh.
And next stop, Conjunction Junction. Doot, doot.
But the void in her life became as cavernous as the empty rooms of her mansion. It was clear, though, they were deeply in love with each other. It's a rare condition where the victim believes that someone close has been replaced with an identical imposter. So it was a total shock when they arrived at the house one day to be greeted by a squad of police cars. But solving that mystery only created a deeper one. Finn.
Okay.
Wow, that was very different.
Yes.
It's
Okay,
like
so
her imposter syndrome is like, or not imposter syndrome, but her she basically is in love with the house,
yes.
and then she believes that the house isn't the house that she had before; it's some other house.
Yeah.
It's like a mimic now.
It's a warehouse.
Yeah, it's a warehouse. There you go.
Yeah.
And then they show up one day and they open the door and there's police cars inside the house because it said arrive at the house to be greeted with police cars.
Yeah, they just crash through the walls.
No,
Oh,
they
they
live
just-
in there.
Yeah, they just live in there, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that was very yeah, as soon as like the second like verse dropped, I was like, oh my god.
So Stanley wasn't referenced in that at all.
No.
Just her in the house.
And so she's just really adverse to moving.
Yeah, pretty much.
Where she oh my god. Oh my god, I just freaking watched a movie last night where
Connective
the whole
tissue
time where like the whole time you think that the killer is killing its victims in the basement of his house throughout the whole movie, and like we finally find the house in the movie at the end of the movie, but then it's revealed that like when the police show up to like finally like nab him, they get down to the basement where the victim and the killer have like had their final confrontation, and they don't find the basement that they from the movie from previous. And then it's revealed that it was like the killer had two houses, one across the road from the other.
Oh.
So they were using one house, like one house's basement, to like torture and kill the kids, and the other basement was used for burying the bodies.
Ah.
Yeah, and it was it's not exactly this, like it just kind of brings to mind that because I was just like watching that movie last night with my sister, so yeah. That movie, but I don't want. Should I spoil it? Would it be spoiling if I said what the title of the movie was?
Yeah, actually, yes.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say it. Yeah.
Yeah. But that movie.
Yeah, that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But
also, for those unaware, Mikey grabs all the sentences throughout a story that start with words that they probably shouldn't, like its, ends, or buts, because there's always better words to use.
Yeah, and sometimes we get connective tissue times.
Sometimes.
I think this is actually a first for connective tissue time during a conjunction junction.
Probably, yeah.
But I guess next on is Gamer. Do you have a grammar in yellow?
I do not. I do not. Oh, hi, Cultist.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Mikey. All right. Then I suppose we'll move on to actual thoughts. So this is where like the actual like stuff about the story, as I was reading, I was like, okay, like there's things I like about it, there's things I didn't like about it, and I'm going to go into it right now. Let's start with this quote here. What's truly terrifying aren't the things that go bump in the night, but the macabre twists of fate in life, especially when they get more horrifying the deeper you pry into them. So last week, like last episode, I was talking about this kind of thing here. Now that the character has been made aware of something abnormal or hard to explain mundanely in their lives, they can't close their eyes to those kind of things. And now they're seeing like the truth behind certain events in their life, or like things around them that like they originally like may have just shrugged off or like may have thought was mundane, but now it's like they're realizing like through like extra details they're now perceiving, it's like, wait, that's can't be explained normally anymore. Shit. Like it's a sort of like, again, the ignorance is bliss. Like once you see it, you'll shit bricks. Or like you can't unsee, you can't close Pandora's box now that you've stepped into the realm of the unnatural.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I think, what I was mentioning earlier, like last week, with like how the characters now just kind of getting this, like this series it seems to be like a series of stories where like it started with the ghost in Vietnam, and now he's starting to start realizing like things were not just like explainable through his life.
That is basically the rundown of this entire series so far, it seems.
Yeah. And honestly, like the makes the first story title like that much more impactful for like the entire series, because like a curious mind is a terrible curse. Like, because he was curious and like wanted to know a little bit more about like that weird event that he encountered, he's now cursed with the fact that like he's now perceiving things a lot differently than he would. He no longer has the safety blanket over his eyes.
Yeah, and he's outwardly like trying to find it now by asking friends about it and shit.
Exactly.
So he's dooming himself.
Yeah. But I'll move on to the next thing I have here. Eventually, the family got her to a psychiatrist who diagnosed her with a type of paranoid schizophrenia known as Capgras syndrome. It's a rare condition where the victim believes that someone close has been replaced by an identical imposter. Great. And now that I've read through a bit of the Wikipedia article linked, the link is the name of the disorder in the story.
I know.
I really wish I hadn't. That shit is tragically fucking creepy.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like, I think I just tapped into like a new fear of mine. Of like, it's like not even like that. Like, I'm not even like creeped out by like somebody being like, I do get creeped out by like doppelgangers and like like people who are like body swapped or like body snatched. But the fact that there's a fucking like mental disorder that causes you to think that, thanks, I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
Like, why is reality creepier than fiction?
Because reality can actually happen.
Yeah. Like,
that's why.
Title fucking drop, but also like title is so appropriate for this. For like, like reality is creepier than fiction.
Yeah, alternates, they're a thing. They're actually a thing to some people.
Well, no, like alternates, they're a thing in people's heads. And like, that's like so sad, and like I feel for that kind of person, because like that would be I would hate that. Like, having that kind of mental illness like would just like I'm understating it, but would fucking suck.
Yes.
Like it's up there with like body dysmorphia, where like you realize like, or you feel like your body is not your own. Like, oh yeah, that's a type of body horror I am not comfortable with at all. So thanks, I hate it. The story has opened my eyes to a new thing to worry about in real life.
Only you didn't click on that Wikipedia link.
Especially since I read
I saw the link and I'm like, I will not click on that.
Well, and then I also,
these titles, I understand the message.
Well, and it's like the article also goes into explain like how you can get this syndrome, and it's like, oh no, this is actually pretty easy to get in like certain circumstances.
Jeez.
Like not just like basically like a concussion might cause it.
Yeah.
Like there's like, I'm obviously also like oversimplifying it, but like yeah, it's just scary. Reality is scary.
It's bad time.
Yeah. And the story definitely woke that up to me, or woke me up to that. So, but I'll move on to something less scary in reality and a little bit more cool and creepy. So, Stanley was the thing that went bump in the night. It was his pleas and desperate attempts to escape that echoed through the halls of the mansion at night. But solving that mystery only created a deeper one. Who then was the person caring for Mary, spending time with her family, and whom, that's a typo, whom actually is home in the story.
Oh.
It should actually be WHOME, not WHOM, but I digress. And whom ultimately was murdered and thrown off a cliff. if Stanley was already dead? Was it a twin brother, a doppelganger? So, and doppelganger has a link to Wikipedia as well, which is just, and I didn't have to click that one because I knew what doppelgangers are. They're basically just like, they're alternates, they're duplicates, they're somebody, they're like an entity that is identical to a person. Like
Also a Spider-Man villain.
Yeah, well, I mean, and they got that from the original term.
Maybe the original term got it from Spider-Man.
No.
How do you know?
Because doppelganger is much older than Spider-Man as a term.
Prove it.
I can. Hang on. History of doppelganger.
Please don't. Let's continue.
No, fuck you.
Let it be known. I tried to let this be a bit and go on.
Yeah, it's. I'm not finding anything immediately, so I'm giving up.
I win.
Although yes. I do love that the first example of a doppelganger is a picture of what's his name? Willy of Wonderland. Wicker Man. What's that guy's name? Like, how did it burn? How did it burn? Not the bees. That guy.
Why can't I think of his name?
Right? Hang on, I got Willy's Wonderland right on the shelf. Hang on.
Googling it.
Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage. What the hell?
Damn it.
Brain work.
Oh, why? But yeah, sorry.
When I was reading this, it took me like literally 10 minutes of sitting here being like, what's that thing called that's people that are taken and replaced with someone else? I'm just sitting there staring into the blank void of space. It's like, that information's not there anymore. And eventually I'm like, alternates there. I can move on with my notes.
Alternates and doppelgangers, yeah. And yeah, so doppelganger is German for double goer. In German folklore, double goer.
Double goer. Okay.
Yeah. In German folklore, a wraith or apparition of a living person as distinguished from ghost. The concept of the existence of spirit doubles. So yeah, basically they're supernatural beings or creatures that look identical to a living person.
Mm-hmm.
And
or Parker with 6 arms.
Or Peter Armor with 6 arms. But also, I love that the example image that Google pops in when I type in doppelganger is a picture of Nicolas Cage.
And I forgot his name for a second.
Yeah, and right next to it is a historical photo of like a person that looks very similar to Nicolas Cage, but clearly from like the 18th century.
Wow.
Or like the late mid 19th century. Like basically it's a sepia tone black and white photo of like a gentleman that looks like Nicolas Cage but with a mustache.
Nice.
Yeah. So doppelgangers, like that's the whole thing. And like, man, this is a really cool concept and like creepy setup and revelation that we get at the end of this story with the doppelganger stuff. And like the whole thing that happens with like where the Mary like is seen like killing the doppelganger seemingly and like throwing them off the cliff and then like just snapping, I guess, from that event and just killing herself. And then they find the real Stanley in a secreted basement in the house that presumably the doppelganger was keeping down there. It also brought to mind actually a film that I watched recently, not like with my sister or anything like that, but like not the one I was talking about earlier, but it's a movie called Significant Other, and it's sort of got a bit of a buddy horror quality to it, but more on like a relationship side of things. And there's a number of plot beats similar to the ones that are in this story. I honestly really recommend the film, but. Yeah, so I really loved I really like the concept and the sort of revelation we get here of like Stanley being found, like his dehydrated and desiccated corpse found in the basement, in like a secreted basement in the mansion, and kind of like just sort of poking holes at the fire is like, well, who was the guy that was taking care of Mary? If this is supposed, like, DNA tests are showing that this is 99% sure this is Stanley here.
Yeah, who's the ending. But who was Stanley?
Oh my! Who was? It's the Stanley Parable.
My God.
Or the I guess
also who was phone, but Stanley.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll move on to my final actual thought. Or my last actual thought, not to be confused with final thoughts. What haunts me most, though, is the thought that maybe she was perfectly sane throughout it all, and it was the world itself that was truly crazy. Reality is indeed creepier than fiction. Credits.
Yeah, actually credits.
Literally credits. Yeah. Okay, so I don't like this. I mean,
This as in what?
hear me out. Here's what I mean. I do like, in fact, I love the creepy story I just read.
Because I gotta say, so far you have only
been
been
very positive.
singing the praises of this.
I have. I did love the story I was reading, but I don't like it as a story in this roster of stories by Won't Think Straight, because this doesn't happen to him. Hell, it doesn't even happen to one of his family members. It's a friend of his. It's
So what?
a story.
So what?
To me, like as much as I like this series of stories being a collection of standalone tales told by Won't Think Straight, it started out with them being centered around Nair's own personal experiences, not like the show Freaky Stories, the one with the blue cockroach and the maggot that tell Twilight story like one shots every episode. So I think there could have been, I think the story could have been like made more to like have a connection to Nair. Like, why couldn't this have been Aunt Mary? Why
doesn't have to be?
Why couldn't this have been Nair's Aunt Mary, not like a friend of Nair's?
Because it doesn't matter. What matters is this happened, and Nair is finding out about more and more of these weird, fucked up creatures that are in his universe and could further target him.
But that we don't get any connection like that in the story. Like, I thought maybe like at the end of the story, we'd get like a thing where he realizes like he's like somebody in his life is starting to act like this, or he's starting to like doubt, like maybe he's starting to like show, like have some paranoia about people in his own life. But it doesn't really go that way. I really need, for me, like the crux for me for enjoying the story. Like, I enjoyed the story. Don't get me wrong. I did like it. I've been singing its praises, like you said, like this entire episode. But my crux here is that like this story didn't really center around Nair, which is kind of was the point at the start from last two sessions, or last two stories that we've read in this series of stories. And like, yes, like Nair is now like realizing that like this, like, I guess friend's aunt had this weird thing happen to them. Like, that's the connection. But I wanted it to be a little bit closer connected to Nair himself. Like, I wanted him to be more in the center of like the weirdness that's happening.
I'm sure in previous entries we were saying like, what is this whole series going to be directly about Nair and everything that's happening to him? That'd be weird.
Yeah, but I was fine with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I strong disagree with you on this, but
okay,
that's fine.
Yeah. Like that's fine. Like, I'm not like I'm not really trying to like push you guys like against her. Like this, I'm just voicing my opinion on this situation. Like, it's not. It didn't ruin the story 100%. I just like, it made me like questions like, well, it's like I was just kind of disappointed a little bit by the end, because it wasn't like there was no real strong connection between Nair and the story. It's just that it's a story that he heard secondhand from a friend. And I thought
this is like eye to the supernatural being opened. This is theoretically another creature that he's learning about in his universe, something that he has to concern himself with. Like, he's basically doing this series of entries like a monster manual of actual supernatural creatures that exist in the world. Whether they happen to him or not, it doesn't matter. He's just finding out more and more about all the weird shit that's going on because he keeps diving into it.
I guess you're right. It left me wanting more. If there are, I kind of hope there's a story later on where this happens to him, like where he starts like questioning like a doppelganger kind of situation.
It would be kind of crazy if like you go through all these stories, him learning about all these things, and then the last story all of them target him.
Oh my God.
All of them.
It's just like Endgame, like Avengers.
He knows
Endgame.
too much. Get rid of this guy.
Dun-dun-dun-dun. Oh, it's actually the SNTF go after the Nair.
Yeah, they found out that
Or
he's
it's like
doing all the
dark
research,
SNTF.
finding out all these things. But because of that, he's making himself a target to all these creatures.
Yeah.
So like they use him as bait to lure all of them out. Where he dies tragically in the process, but they also capture all these creatures as well. So it's for the greater good.
Well, no, I was thinking it's SNTF E. The E stands for evil.
I mean, they're questionably evil anyways. Just like the SDP Foundation.
Yeah, they may be morally corrupt, or at least like they may not have the same morals as humanity.
Mm-hmm.
It's the dark SNTF.
But regardless, without them, the world would be fucked.
Yeah. Or maybe it's just the normal SNTF, and again, like this person knows too much. Like send them to the nope to a nope site where he's exposing the world to the weird shit. We gotta stamp down on this.
Yep, or train him to be a wizard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
the two options.
Yeah.
For those unaware, the SNTF is a supernatural task force, which is some silly like headcanon thing that we've done where like
we've developed.
In regards to like all of the creepypasta monsters that have ever been made, they're all like in the same universe in the SNTF. Like they get the good ones to help them basically keep the other ones hidden from the world and all that.
Yeah, it's like the SCP but better because it's ours.
It's ours and because they're nice.
because they're actually like it's all misunderstandings or like it's all like they're actually just trying to like cover things up so that like because like humans are the real monsters.
Like not all monsters are bad, so and like they're like using them they're utilizing their talents.
Like they're bad guys, but they're not bad guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure all the supernatural creatures aren't enslaved. I'm sure like they have nice like apartments that they live in somewhere or wherever they want to live. They're not imprisoned like in the SNTF. I don't need to explain it this much. Let's continue.
Yeah.
It's fair once in a while we should because some people might listen to multiple episodes and be like, what the fuck is the SNTF? And they keep talking about it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I was like, is that some new thing I haven't heard about? And they start like looking it up and they can't find anything.
Anything at all. Nothing.
Yeah.
Did I hear them right? Am I going crazy?
God knows I've actually done that where like I've like heard of something and I've looked it up and only to find that it's like a tangential thing that was mentioned on like another piece of media. I was like, God damn it. It sounds like a really cool thing. But yeah, it is good to explain our headcanon organization sometimes. But yeah, like again, for me, like I really enjoyed the series. Like again, I don't want to like besmirch the story that we got because it is a really cool, creepy story. And like, thanks. I hate the fact that I now know about Capgras syndrome.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's for me specifically, like personally, I just kind of wish the story had been a little bit more connected to Nair's like whole shtick. But like that's just my opinion on it. So. But that is the end of my actual thoughts. So, Mikey, the E stands for evil.
All right, let's see here. So, my first actual thought is about this quote. Such as the story of old Aunt Mary. Mary wasn't my aunt, but a friend of mine's. So...
Yes, thank you for reading my my Grammar Inquisition quote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't really like this because it's along the lines of the last story where, oh yeah, my parents told me about this that happened when whatever.
Yeah.
Which as we mentioned in that story, I didn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I gave this one a little bit more of a pass. I don't like it, but I like it a bit more than that other way. If that makes sense.
I do understand where you're coming from because you don't like the previous one because it falls in line for something that you don't like, which is false memory situations, or or memories that or I guess it's not so much false memories as like
it's unreliable information because it's not first party information.
Or like subjective memory, because like it's something that's being told to you by a parent who may not may not even recall the same thing. So like it muddies the water a bit for the legitimacy for you.
Yeah.
Because poor legitimacy isn't cute.
All right. So then my next actual thought here, I have this quote. Her family was faced with the difficult choice of either committing Mary to a mental institution to get the care she needed, or have her sedated and looked after at home. They chose to keep her sedated. What a horrible family.
Yeah, I had the same thing.
Yeah. Like, it's on the surface, it sounds like it sounds sympathetic, but at the same, but when you think about that a little bit more than like just surface level, it's just like, that's probably not the best solution. Like, what is this, the 1940s? Or
it might be, but it's not.
No, it isn't, because this character, like, this happened to an aunt of a friend of his. So like, and so we're presuming this is, I'm assuming, and I know what that means. It makes an ass of you and me, it makes an ass of you and Ming. But I am assuming that this is in modern day that we're getting these stories from, like this is relative modern, like current era or current timeline. That Aunt Mary like happened. So like, yeah, no, she probably would have, I mean, they might have had like a home nurse or something like that at the very minimum, but like, yeah, just sedating her at home and not like not medicating like otherwise, like there's
in doing that,
yeah.
They weren't doing anything to try to correct the problem. They were brushing the problem under a carpet, basically. Yeah. Or if that was happening, aside from just being sedating, like maybe they were medicating her as well as sedating her, that needs to be added in the story, because it's way too vague. Yeah, it sounds like it's just sedation. Just she stays like that for the rest of her life. She's basically a vegetable, is what they're doing. Yeah, exactly. So like, at least at the institution, I know mental institutions get like a bad rap, especially in horror. But like, at the end of the day, they are set up to help people afflicted with situations like this. So like, it isn't all like doom and gloom and stuff like that. Like, not all the time, I assume. Like, I assume like there are facilities out there that are like genuinely good, and like that was the intended goal anyway. Yeah, it's a hospital for the head. Exactly. Yeah. But yeah. So and it's if this assuming this whole thing takes place in like a modern timeline, like modern mental hospitals are much better than they were. Which kind of does give off a little bit of a vibes of like an earlier type of or an earlier personification of those kind of things, but yeah, it isn't. It should be more modern stuff. So yeah, all that to say, Mikey Rat.
All right, and then my last actual thought here is, reality is indeed creepier than fiction. So the story sets out to be mundane with creepiness factor, but I feel it doesn't go mundane enough. Like, at the end, it questions, was it the twin brother, a doppelganger? If it's reality, then a doppelganger isn't even a question. Okay. It was the twin brother.
Here's the thing, though. That's not what he's saying. He's not saying like, oh, it was all like reality. Mundane reality is creepier than fiction. That's actually not what he's saying there. He's saying the reality, he's suddenly come to the realize, like, because of like what happened at the end there with like Mary killing a person and dropping it off the cliff, presumably Stanley, but then the authorities found Stanley in the basement, like desiccated as if he'd been dead for like from dehydration and starvation for like for some time. That that puts into question, like, who was the person that was taking care of Mary and getting the family? Like, was there actually a doppelganger? Like, was Mary actually correct? And if that's so, that's the reality. Like that's the current situation in reality, is that like reality is creepier than fiction because you can't write that shit. Although you can.
Yeah, it's saying that there is creepy shit in reality that is creepier than what people write.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, there would be documentation of a twin brother.
Well, yeah, but like
So
yeah. No,
There isn't
like-
saying there's a twin brother. There isn't saying that there's a twin brother. They're basically saying if she's right, there is a doppelganger out there, and in our reality, and with that being the case, reality is creepier than fiction because reality has this creepy shit in it.
Yeah. I do kind of see where Mikey's coming from. Like, the story could have added like that he asked his friend, or they looked at the family looked into it, and like Stanley, like maybe Stanley had didn't even not just had like no family or no real like family connections. Like he didn't have a twin brother kind of thing, or what have you. Like there could have been like a little bit added to that.
And they said that he was an only child.
Yeah, exactly. Like, or go into like that kind of stuff.
Proof would be nice.
Like, it's a cool zinger at the end, but I get what you're saying, Mikey.
Yeah, like you give us a mundane option, but don't go like, well, you're saying it's reality. Well, twin brother makes perfect sense for reality. So that's my take on it. And that's the end of my actual thoughts.
All right, Gamer.
I had 2 notes.
I no longer have them.
Yeah, basically. The only other thing I could say is in regards to them saying that, oh, we could put her in a mental institution or we can sedate her. Let's just sedate her. That's a dick move, yes. But edit later on, after me reading the entire story. So she ended up killing someone and herself. Weird. Yeah. Almost like she needed help and was very clear about needing help by, being crazed.
Yeah.
Almost like the family could have stopped all this by happening. Stopped
all Almost.
This. Yeah, that's literally all I have left. Because I'm in on what I had to say otherwise.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Then I suppose we'll move on to final thoughts. So, yeah, I will partially recommend this story. I did really like the story as it creeped me out. Like, again, the mental illness that was used, that was suggested in the story is fucking creepy, and like I hate it. Like I feel sorry for anybody who suffers from it. But and like the revelation at the end, like but who was Stanley? Was amazing. But as part of the series of stories from Won't Think Straight, to me personally, I don't think I can recommend it because I wanted it to be closer in connection to Nair than a friend of his, or like an aunt of a friend of his. So that's why I'm giving it merely a partial recommendation, because it is a good story. It's just, for me, it doesn't fall in line with the rest of the series, at least as far as we've read. So, Mikey, These Stands for Evil.
Okay, well, as stated previously, I sort of disliked the from a friend, or the story is from the friend that doesn't have all the information, so it doesn't help. I like that the story goes mundane, but then in my mind it doesn't go mundane enough.
Damn you for not going hard enough.
So it does have some creepiness to it. I'll give it that. So with that, I give it a partial.
Okay. And Gamer.
So I liked it.
Okay.
No, but like, yeah, it's good and clean read. Honestly, I didn't notice any grammar issues when I read through it at all. The premise is good and concerning. Ties well with the title. I personally didn't mind it branching out to other people because I'm pretty sure I said before that if all this shit just keeps happening to Nair, then this is just Nair's no good, very bad month or year. Like everything is bad happening to him, but no one else. So it's good to see that it's opening up. At least to me, it's good to see that it's opening up the world of possibilities to like the entire world actually, because in this world that Nair is in, this shit's happening to everyone. It's not just happening to him. It's just no one knows about it. But he's slowly finding out about it because curiosity is a curse that's bad. Or whatever the other one was.
A curious mind is a terrible curse.
That's what I said.
New title for the first story. Curiosity is
curious mind is bad.
Curiosity is a curse. That's bad.
Yeah.
Dot. That's bad.
Indeed.
Okay. Mr. Mackey.
Yeah, personally, I like that it's opening up, so it's happening to everyone. He's just finding out more about it because he's looking into it. And I hope that his insanity actually starts being shown more because he's finding out more and more stuff. But out of all these stories so far, the only one that he's actually concerned for his own well-being is the end of the first story.
Yeah.
Because A, that directly happened to him, but B, these stories are going further on in the timeline, and the ticking clock of the first one should be happening if that is indeed like he did see the ghost's face, so he will be dying a gruesome death at some point in this, which I'm assuming is the last episode, the last entry.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. Yeah, I think that might have just been like no, like he's now just like living in fear, but like nothing's gonna happen to him.
Yes, but I'm fine with nothing happening to him. This makes me sound like a horrible person. I want to see him struggling and living with fear and squirming.
No, that just makes you like, yeah, congrats. You're learning to like horror more.
Because that's what this character is supposed to be experiencing right now. Because if these stories continue and you don't see him going down a spiral of madness because of the first story and then this story and then the next story, all these weird things happening, and he's like, oh god, the whole world is covered in all this weird shit that can kill me. If that doesn't happen, then it invalidates all the other stories, specifically the first one. All that to be said, I like this one.
Fair.
But I want to see those things happen. If they don't happen, then I'll be sad.
Sad times. Sad gamer.
Sad panda.
All right. Well, that so 2 partial recommendations and a full recommendation. Again, it seems like we all liked the premise and like the setup of the story. It's just, or like the not the setup, but like the meat and potatoes of the story. It's just some of us had a little bit more to say about, more to gripe about from other parts of it.
Mm-hmm. We all like the meat and potatoes. Just some of us didn't like the presentation of it on the plate.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly.
And I wanted more meat and potatoes.
Yes. You didn't have enough.
Man, if I was still doing title cards,
yeah,
it would just be like us, like Mikey just asking for more from. Like it's like, hey, you gonna eat that?
Please, sir, can I have some more?
Yeah. But yeah, that'll do it for this week's episode. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted. We're all on Twitter, mostly. Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer and Yell is at the Gamer and Yell, but without that W at the end because his name is too damn long.
Yeah.
And I'm at Review Cultist. I'm also on Blue Sky at Review Cultist, so you can send me messages there. And you can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com, where you can send us other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky things. You creep it, we'll peep it. Yeah. And if you'd like to help support our show financially, you can go to Patreon, select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tiers with special episodes, early access, extra content. To our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, We very much appreciate that.
Mm.
And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely. Because without your listenership, it'd be like screaming into the void. And without your authorship, these stories that you write and post online, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we'd have nothing to talk about. So thank you. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the Gamer in Yellow. And this has been Al Dente Brigamortis. Sleep well.